Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast, where every other week we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. This is the Gaudium et Spes podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gaudium et Spes. I'm Kanobia, the Communications Director. I'm sitting in Suzanne's seat today, co-hosting with Chez. So before we get started, I want to make sure you remember to watch our last episode, the third part of our series in the Corporal Works of Mercy, with Bishop Walk and Aida Bone, the Director of Advocacy and Justice, where they focus on visit the imprisoned. And so they definitely talked a lot about prison ministry, which is important here, especially within our diocese. So today's episode, we're on part 4 of our series, where we're going to focus on clothing the naked. And so joining us, we have Vivian Krumel, who's the president of the Society St. Vincent de Paul Council of Pensacola-Tallahassee. So welcome, Vivian.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Very good of you to join us. Kanobia, I
Yes.
just want to say this is fun. We've never gotten to partner up on this podcast yet. You were with Suzanne last time when I was in Insil.
Right.
Hey, good to see you.
Oh, see you.
Vivian, we always start our podcast. First of all, thank you again for being here. We always start our podcast with the first line of the document that we're named after, the Gaudium et Spes document from Vatican II, which goes, the joys, the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the men of this age, especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted. These are the joys and the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ. So Vivian, got to chat a little bit before the show. We know you're a follower of Christ. You've got a lot of experiences in your life. Joys, hopes, griefs, anxieties right now. What's going on?
Well, you know, I've had my faith ever since I can remember. I grew up in a family of Catholics, and we lived up in Michigan, and we had to hook the horses up on the snowy morning to the car and drag it out to the main highway to go to church. My dad would never miss church. So I came from a family of Catholics, and so I've carried on all these years. And so and for those who are watching, they know that many of you who know me know I'm 90 years old, and I've worked all my life trying to be a better Catholic and to do something for somebody else. I'm a registered nurse, so I'm just a helper, kind of a helper type person. And so you get involved in a lot if you're a helper type person, and I am. And so I'm involved in St. Vincent de Paul, and I have been for about 20 years. And so I'm the president of the St. Vincent de Paul Council here for Pensacola-Tallahassee, and have been for going on my 6th year. I'm going off pretty soon, hopefully. But I've always been involved helping people, and that's what we're all about, helping the people. You know, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, help the poor. That's what we do every day, is to do this at St. Vincent de Paul. So that's what I do.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. We're excited to hear about the work of St. Vincent de Paul all throughout the episode. Yeah, I'm sure you share a lot of griefs, hopes, and anxieties with the people you serve there very often, so we look forward to hearing them. Kanobia, what's going on with you?
I would say for joys for me, at the time of this recording, of course, we just came off of Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
So it was just great to just spend that time with my husband. We went down to the beach, went over to see my mom in Mobile. So we just had a very relaxing weekend, a couple of days off. So I would say that's a joy. Still kind of living that high right now on that. So, yes.
Very cool.
What about you?
Man, I'm exhausted. I'm joyfully exhausted. This week, at the time of recording, my wife and my oldest, Lucia, are at Camp Hidden Lake for middle school youth ministry up in North Georgia. So I'm at home with the 3 little ones, John Paul and Maria and Gabriel, all by my lonesome. So my parents, as I'm in the studio today, my parents, thank you, Mom and Dad, for watching them. Man, it is sobering. Sometimes you just, like as a dad and a husband, and that kind of office life, you get a little taste of it when you get home, but the constancy of it it's a reality check. But I'd say our most joyful thing, we went over to the USS Alabama on Tuesday to tour the battleship. That was the exhausting part. Going up, especially to near the crow's nest, was a lot of fun going up, but carrying a nearly 40-pound 2-year-old down those stairs that are like this, my legs are jello since then. So, but it's been a lot of fun, a lot of funny times, a lot of good times. So, yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Okay. Well, let's get started on just talking about you, Vivian. So first, before we get started on the corporal works of mercy aspect of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself and your faith journey.
Well, my faith journey, as I said, I grew up in a Catholic family and have been true to that. Went to a Catholic nursing training school in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, with the nuns, and it was and they made you a nurse or they kicked you out, and so I made it. That was an experience, and then I met my husband, and He went to the University of Wisconsin and got a degree in city planning, and we moved to Pensacola in 1960. And Pensacola was looking for a city planner with no experience, and that's exactly what he had. In 1960, if you ask somebody what is city planning, nobody knew what city planning was, but he had a degree. I immediately got involved here in Pensacola. And we were in St. Stephen's Parish, and I had one of my boys, and he was baptized there. And then we moved to East Pensacola Heights and had another child, and he was baptized in Sacred Heart. And then I had another child, and he was baptized in St. Paul's, because that was the day we started a new church for St. Paul's.
Oh, my.
So we've been involved with all these churches all this time. So, and I've always been involved in church. Now I sing in the choir, and I'm a reader and jack of all trades of helping. In fact, at St. Paul's, they call me the little general, because if they want something done, they come to Vivian to see, can we get it done? So when I retire, I've got several people I'm going to give the title to if I ever retire. But it's, being Catholic is something that you do, and you really, and I've always said being Catholic is like being pregnant, because I worked in labor and delivery for 14 years. But you either is or you ain't, So you either is pregnant or you ain't, or you're either a Catholic or you ain't. And if you're Catholic, you do what the Catholic Church says, and that's what I go by. But I got involved with St. Vincent. Before that, I was involved with several of the organizations at St. Paul's, and then I got involved with St. Vincent when they opened in 1934. They started the first of St. Vincent de Paul. Of course, I was born in 34, but I have been involved the last 20 years with St. Vincent de Paul, and so it's a great organization. It's a great organization, and it's an international organization. Our headquarters are over in Italy, and then we have the national in St. Louis, and then each region has an area, and we're a diocese in St. Pensacola-Tallahassee is our diocese. So we cover from here to Tallahassee, and we have conferences, the consul, and then there's the conferences, and the conferences work in the parishes, and so we have parishes with conferences, and so that's when they do their work, and so we're kind of doing, but we all do. Now, St. Vincent de Paul has a number of special works. We do special works. One of our special works is the Alfred Washburn Center, which I think you guys have talked about, the Alfred Washburn Center. The Alfred Washburn Center is completely funded by the Catholics in our diocese. And a lot of times some of the clients at the Washburn Center say, oh, you get all this money from the federal government. No, we get no money from the federal government. Mm. Everything is funded by the Catholics in Pensacola. And for that, we are very thankful. We have fundraisers, the big gala, which we just had, and we can write grants for money, but we're funded. And the bishop came over to the Washburn Center last week, and he was, he had the best time. He came over to the Washburn Center and said some prayers and talked to all the clients there, and it was great. But that is completely funded by the Catholic. Sometimes people who are not Catholic will give us some money, but most of the time it is our Catholic community that is so very, very generous, and we're very, very thankful for that. That's one of our special works. The other special work we have is the pantry. We have a food pantry at 2200 West DeSoto Street. Well, the food pantry is also funded by people who generously give food, and Catholic high students who raise it in Thanksgiving. They raise all this food. But unfortunately, this year they didn't raise quite as much money as they usually, as much food as they do. And we had about 2,000 pounds less than we normally get. So our pantry's getting a little lean now. And so many of the parishes are donating money, or they're bringing food to the pantry. So that's what. Now, the people who come to the pantry are those who need food. And they're vetted. They have to show that they're residents. They have to show that they're on food stamps. And then we just don't hand it out to anybody who walks through. And so, but they can come and get a bag of food, nice big bag of food every 2 weeks. And if they have a family, they get 2 or 3 bags of food. And so, but that's fun. That's one of our special works. And the others are the thrift stores. Everybody knows about St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores. And we have 3 of them, one in Chiefs Way, and one on I and Cervantes, and one at 2200 West DeSoto. But I tell you what, our thrift stores are great, and we have great stuff. And people, how do we manage this? People donate their stuff to us, and we go through it, and we make sure it's good stuff, and then we sell it in the stores. And that's the way we earn money. And one of our thrift stores on I and Cervantes has what we call the boutique, and we get some very good stuff that's donated to us. And we have some women there who know quality, and so they have a boutique section, and of course we can charge a little bit more, and it's good stuff. So if you're looking for something very upscale and very inexpensive, we have a lot of ladies who come there to shop because they can find good stuff at a reasonable price. So that's the other store. And then of course the store at 2200 West DeSoto. So we have the 3 stores, we have the Washburn Center, we have the food pantry, and all of this is supported by the community. So anything you donate to St. Vincent de Paul, we are using it to resell and to make money to help the poor. That's where we help with the food, we help with the clothes, and help with, the conferences have taken, people call and want help. And how this works is what somebody calls and says they need help. We take their information, and then we do what we call a home visit. We're the only organization that I know of that does a home visit. When you call for help, we come out and look at you and talk to you and help you and see exactly what do you need. Because a lot of times they'll call, and when we get there, they need a lot more than what they're asking for. Right now, the problems is Florida Power and Light. God bless them. People are so behind in paying their bills, and if they don't pay their bill, they cut off their electricity. Have you tried living without electricity? No. Well, that's what happens if they don't pay their bill. So they call us to see if we can help them pay the bill. And a lot of times we can, and sometimes we can't. Yesterday, the day before, we did a home visit, and I'm a home visitor. And the lady owed $900. And I'm going, holy cow, But it was a circumstantial thing, and we worked it out. We finally got her bill paid. But that was a big load. But that's how we do it. And that's why St. Vincent de Paul is known for its home visits, because they went way back at the start of St. Vincent. That was one of the things they did, is the home visit. And we have gotten calls, and people will say, "You're coming out to see us?" Yes, we are coming out to see you. So we go out and we interview them and see what they really need. And then we talk to them about God. And we ask them, my first line after we do all the other outlines, I'll say to them, "Did your mother take you to church?" And the look on their face is, yes. And if they got children, I'll say, "Are you taking your children to church?" Well, Most of the times they say yes, but sometimes they say no. And yesterday this lady said, no, I don't take my children to church. And I said, why? So I don't let them off the hook. Because when you make a home visit, unless you talk about God and what the Lord can do for you, and not what we can do for you, you've got to be a partner. You've got to help too. And so, but generally the look on their face when I say, did your mother take you to church? They go, oh yes, or grandma took me, and it was like, yeah. But when I ask them, and so most of them say they're going to church, but every once in a while we'll get one. This lady yesterday said no. And I wish I could have spent more time with her, because she said, I don't believe in religion. My eyes got big, and I'm going, oh, we have a problem here. Houston, we got a problem, because this lady doesn't believe. So we talked to her whether she believed or not. And so we talked to her about church and about taking the children to church. But that's what we have to evangelize. We're out there when we're doing home visits. We're evangelizing and telling people, this is what you need physically, but mentally, this is what you need. And we have ladies at St. Paul's Church who knit these little, like, hot pads, and we have a prayer on that, and we give them that prayer. We read the prayer, and we give them this little soft hand-knitted pad, like a hot pad. And it says, hold this in your hand when you have a problem. And remember, the Lord is here for you. And they snatch that out of my hand, and they just hold it because they love it. And I know that all of those are being held many times because they got lots of problems. Mm-hmm. And so, but the home visit is such a vital part. And so that's one of the things that I think St. Vincent is really renowned for, is the home visit.
Well,
your turn.
That's an incredible overview. Vivian, I maybe wanted to ask, St. Vincent, you don't have to have a full biography of him or anything like that, but some of the, he is, St. Vincent de Paul, a French priest who's...
No, well, he was a priest. It was actually started by Frederick Osman way back. And he was not. He was in a study group at the French, and they asked him to prove. He was talking about the goodness of God and how we do things, and they said, prove it. So he started visiting people, but that's how it really got started. But then St. Vincent came along, and St. Vincent, he didn't quite know what the heck he wanted to do. And he was kind of on the boats helping the prisoners and doing things. But when he got in with St. Louise de Marillac, and she started telling him of these people, then he got into helping and feed the poor, clothe the naked, help them, whatever. And it's when St. Vincent says there's nothing foreign that we can't help. Sometimes we'll get a call and somebody's stranded at a gas station. They have no gas. There's 2 or 3 kids in the car, and they're on their way to Mama's down in South Florida, and they have there no money, no gas, no food. So they call us, and so we will we can't go by ourselves. We have to go too. So we get another person, and we go at the gas station. We fill up their tank with gas, give them some food, and get them on their way. And there's nothing that we can't accomplish if we want to do it. And those happen. That happens frequently, that people are traveling through, they run out of gas, they run out of money, and they're stranded. And then they basically become homeless, because if they can't go anywhere, they're stuck here and they're homeless. And that adds to another problem, is the homelessness, Right. And a lot of times the things when we make a home visit, they're this close to being homeless. If we don't help them to keep in their home, they're this close to being homeless because they don't have any, they're in trouble. And lots of times it's because they make poor choices. The choices you make in life, and with 6 children, this was my standard. The choices you make are going to affect you the rest of your life. And these people make some bad choices. And now they're bad choices. At the time, they thought they were doing okay. But the choices they make affect them. And And what affects them affects us and everybody else, because then we have to help them out of their bad choice. It's not always doable. And a lot of times it's poor budgeting. When we go on a home visit, I have a budget sheet, and I'll tell them, this is your work for the next 4 weeks. Every week I want you to write down every penny you spent, every penny, even if it's $1 for a candy bar. Everything has to be written down for 4 weeks. And I want to write down how much money you got coming in and how much you have to pay out. You're never going to get control unless you know where it's coming from and where it's going to. And that's for anybody who's having a problem, or even not a problem. You've got to have a budget. So we work with them to budget the money they have. And I make a lot of my home visits with my friend Phil, and he's a mathematician, and he can tell them in a minute, you're right in bad trouble. You're right on the edge. If you don't change something, you're going to be in bad trouble. But he's such a mathematician, it blows my mind. But that's, you have to show them that they're in a situation where they're going to become homeless if they don't change what they're doing, or if they don't add some more money to the pot. And we tell them to call on relatives, to call on friends. It comes a time when you're desperate. And this one lady yesterday, she said, well, I've asked them all and they can't do it. And I said, wait a minute. You go back and you tell them you're desperate. You're going to be out of this house if you don't get some money. She said, well, I said, do it right now. So she picked up the phone and called her grandpa. She said, Grandpa, I'm really in a bad spot. I need you to help me. And the conversation went on when he said, yes, he would. So if I hadn't pushed her to do this, she wouldn't have done it, because she said, well, I hate to ask him for help. Honey, you're at a desperate spot. You gotta ask for help. And that's why you called us, to get some help. But now it's up to you to get some help. So you have to kind of give them a little push in the right direction to make sure that they understand how desperate their situation is. And it is desperate. I mean, if you look at their income and look at their outgo, and it doesn't match, you're in big trouble. You know that. You run a budget. You run a budget. If you don't have it, if you don't have more left over, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. So that's some of the situations that we see that are we call on the elderly. I called on a lady yesterday. She had a bad back, and she had all kinds of surgery, and she needed a new bed. So we went in to see her bed. So I had to examine her bed, and yes, she needed a new bed. So we're going to give her a new bed. Nice lady, and very, very nice. And when I go in, I make sure they have food. I look in their refrigerator. I say, can I look in your refrigerator? I open the door and look in the refrigerator. Sometimes they have food, sometimes they don't. I look in their freezer. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I look in their pantry. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And so if they need food, we direct them to the food pantry. We direct them to Manna. There's about 6 food pantries in town, 6 or 7, where people can get food if they know to go to get it. But we give them all the instructions of how they can get food. And I didn't bring it with me, but we have a new street guide. The new street guide is puts out by opening doors and all the people who help people, and it tells in that street guide is absolutely wonderful. And many of the parishes don't even have some. I've made some visits to parishes, and I say, "Here's the street guide," and they look at me like, "Huh?" And in that street guide, it tells all the facilities, all the organizations who can help with food, who can help with utilities, who can help with all kinds of the veterans and the legal. When we go in, if there's a mother and children, and I say, is the father supporting this child? Most of the time, it's a no. And I'll say, why? Why is he not supporting? Well, he's incarcerated. Well, that's a pretty good reason. Can't do anything about that. But if they're not incarcerated, I say, why aren't you? A lot of times they're very hesitant to want to make the father support. either they're afraid of the man, or they're just very hesitant. And so in our street guide, there's a whole section on legal aid. There's legal aid here. And there's about 3 different legal aid organizations that if they call them, they will help them to find the father and help them get support. So we point that out. Page 17, go to 17. That's where the legal aid is. I want you to call all 3 of these and find out who can help you to find the father of these children. Because it's so, and I try to explain to them, it's not just for you. You have children here. They need the support of their father. You're doing this because you need to help your children. And that's the important thing. I try to make them understand it's not only for them, but it's for their children. That's why you need to do these things, to help your kids. If you don't get the kids help, you're going to abandon these children. And so we try to make them open up their eyes that it's the father's duty. He was fathered these children. It's his duty to support them. But so many times they're reluctant. I think they're afraid of them, or they're incarcerated, or they're not working, or they don't know where they are. I said, you call legal aid, they'll find them. So we give a lot of advice, whether they follow it or not, we give it to them. But that's basically what we do at St. Vincent de Paul right now. Wow. Does that give you a pretty good picture?
It does.
We work hard, very hard, very hard.
I'm glad you explained about the home visit, because I know when visitations go out, initially the call is about utilities, but then the home visit provides you an opportunity to get an overall picture of what's going on in the home.
Yep.
So do you ever get to follow up with the neighbors to see if they have become self-sufficient?
No, we do try to call them back to see if they're making any progress. We're limited in our funds, at least at St. Paul's we are, and all of the conferences are. So we only help them once a year. And so once we give them, and when we make a home visit, each visit costs us usually at least $500 by the time we help them. Wow. Particularly if they need beds. St. Paul's we have mattresses at the best price out of town. That way you can get very good quality mattresses. So we pay for the mattresses, and they have to have a box spring, and they have to have a frame, and they have to have sheets and pillowcases. And if they don't have a bed, they need everything. And so we provide all that. But see, people in the community are so good about donating that stuff to us. And so, Grandma dies and she's got this house full of stuff. They donated a lot of it to us, and so we get some good. We've had some priests who had died, and they donated all their wonderful furniture and stuff to us. So that was a big help. But we live on donations, and that's and the big gala and grants. We write some grants, and we've had help from Impact 100 because they help us. We're writing another grant this year for our truck. We go to homes and pick up stuff, and then we go home to homes and deliver the mattresses. And we have an old truck, and our truck is in bad shape, and so it keeps breaking down, costing money. So we're going to Impact this year to see if we can get a new truck. So that's one of our application is to see if we can get a new truck from Impact.
Something to pray for sure.
Hey, we're working on it, honey. We're working on a new truck. But without the truck, we're pretty lost, because then if it's broke, we have to rent, and that's not cheap. But anyway, it's a very, very busy organization, and it's all centered on helping other people. I mean, we help other people, and it's amazing. It's an amazing organization.
Well, so far, Vivian, you touched on, clearly we knew that St. Vincent de Paul does every corporal work of mercy almost. Maybe not burying the dead and visiting this, but...
Oh, we've been called to help pay for funerals.
Even still. So this work of mercy, though, of clothing the naked, I think in the modern world, it's it's maybe one of the more difficult ones for people to envision, because this isn't the ancient world where maybe you had to hand sew all of your clothing, your tunics, and if you lost it, you couldn't just go to the department store and buy 5 more or something like that. So what, for the populations that you serve, for the people that you serve often, what does this work of mercy, clothing the naked, maybe look like?
What does it look like? Well, when people donate stuff to us, in our resale stores, we will use, they donate like children's clothes, and we have it for sale, and it's very inexpensive. $1 for a little T-shirt, a nice T-shirt. We only put out nice quality stuff. We have an organization that picks up what we don't use, and they'll pay us some bulk rate for it. And you'll see a kid over in Africa wearing a Nike shirt, and you wonder, how did he get a Nike shirt? Well, it came through that organization that distributed. But we do charge a small amount, and in some cases we go in and we give them food. We give them food, we give them clothing, and mattresses, and whatever they might need, because they just need help. They just need help. And it's some days when Phil and I do our home visits, it's very rewarding. And some days we come away and we say, there's nothing we can do to really help these people. They're in so deep. There's just nothing we can do. And so so that's always frustrating if we can't. I mean, it would take $1,000 which we don't have, but we try to keep our spending to about $500 per visit because we go through it so fast. But this last week we made 6 visits, and so that's a good $500 each. So we go through the money, but it's rewarding. It is. I mean, we get more out of going, but we do spread the evangelization, and we try to remind them that God is with them. I said, you've got to pray. You've got to remember that God is going to help you. You just got to have faith, and. But that one lady I told you where she said she didn't believe in religion, I wish I could have spent an hour with her, because we'd have had a little discussion. She was a pretty smart lady, but she needed a little education. But we do that, and at the Washburn, at the Washburn Center, there they have Deacon Ray comes out, and sometimes a priest will come in. But I go out there some, and the reaction among the homeless is really interesting. At St. Paul's School last year, they did for Christmas. They made a homemade Christmas card, and they put it in a little plastic envelope, cute little card with a saying on it, and they put a rosary and a holy card. And I went out to the Washburn Center with 150 of these, and where they stand in line for food, I have 1 minute to talk to them. And I would say, this has been made by the children at St. Paul's Catholic School, and they prayed for you while they were making this card for you. And so I'm going to give this to you, and I want you to pray for them when you have the rosary and read the card. And I didn't know what kind of reaction I would have. How all these people are homeless. What do you think the reaction would be? Because you never know what the reaction is going to be. Mm-hmm. Of those 150 people in line, everybody took one except one man. And he said, no, I don't want it. And I said, really? He said, no, I don't want it. And he turned away from me. But every one of them took it. And the interesting thing is, some of those men said, I used to be Catholic, but I haven't been to church in a long time. And I've got 1 minute. And I said, why? And he said, well, I guess it's my fault because I don't try to go to church. And he said, and I give him the rosary. And he said, I used to pray the rosary. So it's, a few of them that you can touch out of 150. So that I got all my evangelization done in one day. And so, but the reaction was that they all took it except one. And that I thought was interesting, because that's, and then later I saw them with the rosaries around their neck, around their wrist. But I had one lady who came up and she said, will you teach me how to pray the rosary? That was a winner.
Yeah, wow.
So you never know. You never know what you're going to find, and it's interesting. So you have to be prepared to get rejected, and you have to be prepared to be accepted. So it's very interesting work.
Now, just the people who just need clothes, like the homeless,
Yeah.
they can go to the the thrift store, but can also go to the Alfred Washburn Center too, or just the thrift store?
No, the Alfred Washburn Center, they give food only to the homeless, and it's mostly men.
Okay.
Although, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of women coming to the homeless, to the Washburn Center.
Okay.
And last year, one day, among the group at church, I said, hey, the homeless women are still women. Mm-hmm. If you got any jewelry at home that you're not wearing, costume jewelry, earrings, bracelets, whatever, put it together and give it to me. So I had this whole box of jewelry, and I brought it over to the Washburn Center. And I said to the people behind the window working, I said, here's some jewelry. Offer this to the women. It was gone in 2 days. I mean, when they said we have some jewelry for women, I mean, they're still women and they're still proud. And if they find a nice earring or a bracelet or a necklace that they can wear, they're still proud to have it. So, I mean, that was just something I just decided to do one day. But so they're still there. So there's always a need. There's always a need of something that we can do. Now, we used to do bus tickets and to help people to leave town, but the bus tickets have gone up, and St. Paul's used to do most of the bus tickets because Jeanette over there, she knew how to do those. She was perfect at getting a bus ticket, but the cost of the bus tickets have gone up, and so we have stopped doing it because we don't have the money to do it. But the Washburn Center used to call us and say, I have a man here whose mother died in Memphis, and he's got to get to Memphis. Can you buy him a bus ticket? Which we did. We would put him on the bus. Or one time we sent a mother and the 3 children all the way to Oregon. That's where her family was, and we paid tickets for them because it was an abuse situation, and she had to get out of town, and very, very bad, very quickly. So we put her on a bus with her 3 children all the way to Oregon. Big expense, but we got her out of town and probably saved her from damage. Right. But the bus tickets were very important, and they want to go back to families. But when I was doing the bus tickets, I would call and say, your son Joel wants to go home to you. She said, don't send him back to me. So you never know what kind of reaction you're going to get when you're calling. Because we had to call and make sure somebody was going to meet them at the bus station, that he had a relative who was going to take him in or somebody. And we had to make all the arrangements because we just don't send them. Because they would like to go, in the winter. They want to go down to Miami. Oh, just because they thought it'd be nice to go. But we have to have a reason. But right now, I wish we had enough money to do bus tickets because that is a good thing to do. But we just don't have that kind of cash anymore. But if we do, in some situations, we scrape it up if it's really, really desperate. But that's not one of the things we do as we used to do. A lot of it. But we're going to raise some more money. We'll be able to do all these things that we've been doing.
Yes.
You said the word "we" many times, which I love. It's just a fantastic way that this is. And I'm assuming the "we" of St. Vincent de Paul is not a staff of 50 extremely well-paid employees or something like that. So who is the "we"? You mentioned Phil a number of times, just and the women of St. Paul's and stuff. But how can you become part of the "we"? Who becomes part of the "we"? How can you become part?
Yeah. Well, at St. Vincent de Paul, we have an executive director, Leslie Youd, and we have Tim in the office who takes all the calls, and they're the only 2 paid people there. I do have some cashiers in the stores that are paid. We used to have volunteers all the time. Well, our volunteers got old. Unfortunately, they died. So it's hard to get volunteers to come in. But we still have quite a few volunteers, but many of our people working the stores now, we have to pay them. And which is a good thing because a lot of those people need a job anyway. And so we're providing employment, and they're providing something for us to work in the stores. But almost everybody is a volunteer. And at all the conferences, we're all volunteers. We don't get paid mileage, or we can claim it on our income tax, but we don't get paid mileage or anything. but where all the conferences are volunteers, and they all work very, very hard to meet the needs of the community. You know, in our community, which I did not know before I started doing all these home visits, we have a lot of projects. I call them projects. You know, where for housing that the city runs. There's a lot of them, and some of them are very nice. And a lot of people get in there with HUD funding, and HUD is a big funder. If they can get HUD funding, they can get into a fairly decent place. But in this city is a terrible situation. There are no apartments available, no low cost, no. People have a terrible time trying to find a place to live. This is one of the big problems we have, is finding a place for people to live. Mm-hmm. You know, and if they find it, it's too expensive or it's a terrible place. But the city runs some very, very good projects. They really do. Addicts Court is very good. Morris Court, the ones downtown. And it so happens that St. Paul's, the conference I'm in, we have 3 through 5, 01, 02, and 03, and 04, which is all the projects. So, but somebody else has, Sacred Heart has 05, which is Truman Arms, and that's a big project too. So, the thing about it is that we just have so many people who need so many things. And now the Gulf Power, I can't say Florida Power and Light, but that is one of the big problems now. And with summer coming,
air conditioners are on all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do. But when we go in, another thing, I go in and I say, what do you keep your thermometer on? What you keep your temperature on? Because we explained to them that their power bill is going to go up if they keep it cold. I said, you can't keep it on 68. You're going to have to go up to 72 or 74 because look at your power bill, and it's going to get worse. And so we tried to explain to them that the usage is going to go up. And I said, we're going to pay it this time, but who's going to pay it next time if you don't get that? You know, you've got to keep it. So we go look and see what they keep it on. Phil is very good at this, but you've got to educate them that you may like 68, but darling, 68 is going to put your power bill way up here, and you can't afford it. So you're going to have to turn it up to 74. And I said, and then as a nurse, I explained to them, I said, you know, once you get it back up to go to 70, then to 72, and then to 74, your body will adjust the change in temperature. From 68 to 74, no. But if you do it gradually, you will not realize that it's on 74. So you got to do a little educating. And I educate a lot of people about that one.
It's been such a fascinating education overview. The fact that you get to talk with people on such an intimate level is priceless in terms of, instead of statistics and kind of, you know, figures that kind of paint a broad picture, which are very important, but you kind of have a way of marrying those two. Like, I talk to these people, I talk to them about their utility costs and their food costs and their transportation difficulty. And it's like, this is what it actually all means in a person's life. All these issues that are politically debated, all these kinds of things are really felt for people. So, yeah, fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your courageousness, your passion that clearly just has given assistance to so many people. Yeah, I just feel like the whole time I was like, this is the concreteness of the gospel. This is as firm and solid as it gets, you know?
We greatly appreciate you coming on with us and just sharing the works of St. Vincent de Paul, and thank you for what you do for St. Vincent de Paul. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, guys, we're nearing the end of our journey with the Corporal Works of Mercy. Today was another fascinating overview of just how vast and how beautiful this work is and how you can be involved as well. We're going to wrap up this series, though, next time around. Bishop Bill, from his unique perspective as a bishop and his time as a priest, a parish priest, the two final works of mercy of visiting the sick and burying the dead. And these are, of course, things that are most intimately felt by the Catholic Church and our administering our sacraments to the dying, and a bishop will have many stories and insights to how that functions in the life of the church. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit our website, gaudiumετspes.net, or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, be sure to rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.